This was the biggest fight I think I've seen in Washington, D.C. This is my 5th year here. And this was a fight that we should have never had to wage. It should have been the easiest thing for every single member of Congress. It should have been the easiest thing for the Speaker of the House. It should have been the easiest thing for the President of the United States to release all the information, every single file, on behalf of these American women. And we, especially the 4 Republican members of the House of Representatives, we should have never faced intimidation and threats for us to get this vote to come to the floor. Never forget, there were 4. Thomas Massey, myself, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. We had to sign a discharge petition, and we had to fight through intimidation, and we had to endure it for months to push that discharge petition finally to 218 to get this vote to come out. And I remain dedicated to my promise to read those names here on the House floor if those women ever find them in a place that it needs to be done.
Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, may I inquire as to how much time I have?
You have 17 minutes remaining.
I yield myself 2 minutes.
The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, today's an extraordinary day in this chamber. If my colleagues will vote for this measure, we'll see justice triumph over politics. Truth will triumph over deception and obfuscation. Transparency will triumph over dark money. Partisanship will fall away to bipartisanship. Grassroots, the people, will reclaim the people's house with this vote. It's going to be a victory for survivors, not just survivors of the Epstein sex trafficking scandal, the 1,000 survivors that exist. Some of them are victims. They're no longer alive. Some have committed suicide. They share one thing in common. Their youth was robbed from them. Much of their lives were robbed from them, but they're claiming it back. We're going to help them claim that back. But it's not just a victory today if this vote prevails for those survivors. It's a victory for every person, man or woman, boy or girl, who's been victimized sexually in this country. Anybody who's been a victim of sexual assault, or maybe they've been victimized by a family member. Maybe it's not a billionaire, but they're all waiting and watching to see what we do today. They're wondering, if I go to mom or dad, will anything happen? If I go to the sheriff, will anything happen? Well, we have a chance today to make something happen. Something that's not happened, something that should have happened decades ago, and that is to get justice for these victims and survivors and transparency for America. That's what this vote is about today. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Kentucky reserves. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I now yield 5 minutes to the gentlewoman from Georgia, Mrs. Greene.
The gentlelady from Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I proudly rise today in a bipartisan effort to release the Epstein files, finally, after 5 administrations have covered it up. Earlier today, I attended the press conference where the survivors, they're not victims, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse and sex trafficking told their stories. And they told stories about how it started back in 1991, 1996, and they continued on through the decades. And they told stories about how they told someone and tried to get help. They told the FBI, and they weren't listened to. And they told law enforcement, and no one did anything. And these women don't just number a few. These women number around 1,000 women. And they are victims of something that's unthinkable. And this should have never, ever happened. This was the biggest fight I think I've seen in Washington, D.C. This is my 5th year here. And this was a fight that we should have never had to wage. It should have been the easiest thing for every single member of Congress. It should have been the easiest thing for the Speaker of the House. It should have been the easiest thing for the President of the United States to release all the information, every single file, on behalf of these American women. These American women aren't rich, powerful elites. They do not have someone paying for their airline tickets or paying for their trips or paying for their expenses every time they try to do something to get this information out. These are your average Americans. And you want to know what the Epstein files represent? The cover-up represents to average Americans. It represents the failures of the federal government and Congress to the American people. And that is what people rose up about in 2024. They wanted and demanded transparency from their government and for Americans finally to be put first. And today, with this vote, we are finally putting these victims and these survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and the cabal of rich, powerful elites that expands not just here in the United States of America, but to other countries as well. We're putting them last. And that is exactly what Americans want. You see, for far too long, Americans have been put last. And they're sick of it. They're sick and tired of it. And this is why they don't trust Congress. This is why they don't trust the government. And here's the problem. All of these women who have suffered in shame for years and years and years, women who were terrified, women who were intimidated, women who were threatened, just like Virginia Giuffre. And now she's dead. And these women should have never faced that, for this information to come out. And we, especially the 4 Republican members of the House of Representatives, we should have never faced intimidation and threats for us to get this vote to come to the floor. Never forget, there were 4. Thomas Massie, myself, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. We had to sign a discharge petition, and we had to fight through intimidation, and we had to endure it for months to push that discharge petition finally to 218 to get this vote to come out. This is what the American people are sick of, and rightfully so. Now, where does this go from here? The question will remain, will the Department of Justice release all the information? Will a judge in New York release the information? Will the CIA release the information? And will foreign governments release their information? Or will this continue after this vote today be a cover-up of the rich, powerful elites that bond together in sex and human trafficking abuse and all types of global business that enriches them but never serves Americans? The American people will know, and the victims, actually the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, will know, because they know the list of names. And I remain dedicated to my promise to read those names here on the House floor if those women ever find them in a place that it needs to be done. I yield back to Mr.
Gentlelady
Massey.
from Georgia yields back. Gentlelady from South Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank my colleagues today for the time, Mr. McGovern and Mr. Khanna, for the 5 minutes on the floor to speak about an issue that is not political for me. Helping the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and his horrific, gruesome, brutal sex trafficking ring is deeply personal. And while we often have many disagreements about a lot of issues, maybe most issues, today they are allowing us to speak on the floor, and I want to thank my colleagues, Congressman Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert, the 4 of us making history today over the discharge petition and delivering justice for those who have desperately fought for it for, in some cases, almost 30 years. I wore white today because I wanted to reflect on the innocence of the young women who had their innocence stolen from a demon named Jeffrey Epstein, from demons, friends of his, rich and powerful people who stole their innocence as young as 14 years old. It was taken from them, and they've never gotten it back. I'm also wearing white today to recognize the courage that it takes for women to come forward, the sacrifices to them personally, professionally, financially, the embarrassment, the humiliation, the shame that we still deliver on the backs of women who have been brutalized, who've been raped, who've been assaulted. The shame that the media pours over their heads, that their colleagues, their friends, their neighbors, their loved ones, because you come forward and because you talk about sexual assault, you are not a slut. It's not because of what you wore. You're not a whore. But that's how women are treated, and you're not lying. And I want every woman to know, every Epstein survivor to know, every woman across the country who is a survivor, who is a victim of assault, that today we see you. And this fight and this vote tonight, I see it is about the Epstein victims, but it's about much more than the Epstein victims. This is about the powerless, taking power away from the very powerful. This is about giving women who never had a voice, giving a voice to the voiceless. This is about their sacrifice. This is about having and recognizing their courage. This is about justice for the Epstein victims, but it's also about hope. Earlier this year, I gave a speech right here on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives, detailing trauma that I experienced, endured, and am a survivor of, that I accidentally uncovered 2 years ago, almost to the day. And today, I still don't have justice, like millions of women across the country. When I spoke out, I got attacked. When I spoke out, I was shamed. When I spoke out, I was defamed and smeared, and that goes on today, right now, in the present. God sure has a funny way of working through us. I, like many of the Epstein survivors and many other survivors across the country, I don't think I will ever heal from the destruction my abuser did to me. But I can heal by being a vessel and being a voice for all those who need it, and that's why we are here today. That is why I will never abandon a single survivor ever, and I will never waver. I spent my morning talking to law enforcement and others about another potential Jane Doe number 5, who may be another sexual assault victim in the case that I uncovered 2 years ago. It's very difficult for us to come forward, but I want to thank the women who have, the Epstein victims, the victims in the case that I uncovered. I want to thank all of you for being a voice, for giving me hope. Maybe one day I too can get justice. Thank you, and I yield.